Thank you for coming back. We still have one more speaker, as we said, and then we have a discussion session, so we have 1 hour total. Our next speaker is Ms. Katinka Vigh. She's from UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in Vienna. And she's a consultant working on the Montreal Protocol unit of UNIDO to assist developing countries. You heard about developing and developed countries, the Article 5 countries, with economies in transition to be in compliance with the Montreal Protocol, working on various projects promoting sustainable refrigeration and air conditioning in Europe and Africa. She also participated in funds mobilization, getting money for those projects, and in identifying innovative approach for the conversion of existing industrial refrigeration installation, replacing the HCFCs. So as you see with the transition, we heard about the protocol, about the implication of the regulation on ships, then about the standards, and now we'll hear about the projects themselves. So, Katinka, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Bassam, for the introduction, and welcome everyone back from lunch. As Bassam said, I come from UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization.
I change the button.
Okay. So, as the outline of my presentation, first I would like to tell you a few words about UNIDO, then about the importance of the fishing industry in developing countries, and in this way I would like to give you the big picture about the importance of refrigeration and fishing industry in developing countries. And then I will extend on the use of low GWP refrigerants and the barriers we have identified so far in connection with their introduction. And to finish, I will mention 2 demonstration projects that we are implementing at the moment in Vietnam and in the Gambia. So, first of all, UNIDO is the specialized agency of the United Nations. Its mission is to deliver inclusive and sustainable industrial development in developing countries. And actually, we do it through the integration of economic, social, and environmental factors. And this is how we intend to reach inclusive and sustainable development. Our tasks, as you can see, is really multifaceted. We touch upon trade capacity building, agribusiness development, and also environment, because we are well aware of the fact that any industrial or economic development will be short-lived if it is not coupled with a sustainable environmental framework. That's why UNIDO devotes considerable resources to environment protection. At the environment branch, we have a wide portfolio of projects in the field of waste management, water management, efficient use of resources, and also the mitigation of climate change. And we also support countries to be in compliance with the various multilateral environmental agreements. among others, the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. As my colleagues mentioned earlier in their presentations, the Montreal Protocol is an international treaty. I have to add that this year we have the 30th anniversary of the Vienna Convention. So in this way, we also we can also commemorate the success of the Montreal Protocol, which is one of the most successful environmental treaties around the world. UNIDO is one of the implementing agencies of the Montreal Protocol, and at the moment, as you can see in the map, we implement projects around the world in developing countries and in countries with economic transition in Latin America, Africa, and Asia and Eastern Europe. Our Montreal Protocol project keep in mind the UNIDO's vision on inclusive and sustainable development. We introduce new technologies, energy efficient technologies, which then produce benefits not only to the environment but also to the users. We ensure sustainability through trainings, and it also means that the companies remain productive. Now I would like to talk to you about the relation between the protection of the ozone layer and the mitigation of the climate change. Although Montreal Protocol didn't focus originally on the topic of the climate change, but as a side effect it produced considerable positive benefits in this regard. Why do we talk about this today? Because as you could hear in earlier presentations, one of the most potent ozone depleting substances, HCFC 22, is being phased out under the Montreal Protocol, and it is being used by the fishing industry in developing countries. And it means that with the phase out of this substance, users are turning towards new solutions. They are searching new alternatives. In most of the developing countries, there is a tendency for the use of HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, which is, although not an ozone-depleting substance, but has very high global warming potential. As you can see, it's 2,000 or 4,000 times bigger than that of the CO2. So it's a real concern. And that's why there are heated debates about the phase down of HFCs in the international community. And UNIDO, as a UN organization, feels that it's very important to support developing countries in avoiding this substance. And as you can see in the graph, it illustrates our idea about leapfrogging this substance, because we don't want countries to lock themselves in the use of this refrigerant with high GWP, and we want them to turn immediately after HCFCs to the use of ozone and climate-friendly refrigerants, which are, for example, the natural substances, ammonia and CO2, and also newer molecules. The fishing industry as a whole is, as you all know, is really important in the economy and industrial development of developing countries. It also has a really important impact on the society, since like 40% of the people involved directly or indirectly in this industry are women. And this is an important factor, because especially in developing countries the work opportunities for women are quite limited. So this should be also taken into consideration, and we should understand that refrigeration is not simply a key chain in the the fishing industry, but since fishing industry is key in the whole economy of developing countries, this is how it can contribute to really reaching an even more important role in these countries, and this is also our responsibility to ensure that. As you can see, refrigeration is key in ensuring appropriate food quality and food safety, also to minimize the post-harvest losses and trade opportunities. I also have to say that it also has ecological importance, since in developing countries where they don't have the possibility to use various refrigeration technologies for the preservation of fishes, very often they turn towards drying and smoking, and they use forest cover for that. And this means that these techniques are much more resource demanding, so it would be also the interest of the global environment, also from this point of view, to introduce refrigeration technologies and that develop the current possibilities. Unfortunately, you cannot see the last line properly, but it says that refrigeration is also very important to be efficient from the point of view of the users who pay for it, since it is the main source of energy consumption in the fishing industry. When it comes to the fish processing, it accounts for approximately 50% of the cost, and in the cold storage it's about 90%. And now, in order to have the big picture and a good understanding of what fishery means in developing countries, I would like to show you a short video presenting one of UNIDO's projects. This is artisanal fishery in Senegal. Yeah, I tried, but it doesn't work.
Senegal has 600 kilometers of coastline on the Atlantic Ocean, so fishery resources constitute one of the most important sectors of the economy. The fishery sector accounts for more than 12% of the country's GDP. Over 600,000 men and women work in fishing and fishing-related industries. The majority of people employed in this industry are involved in artisanal fisheries, where women play a significant and dynamic role, especially in processing and marketing. These women use salting, drying and smoking to process fish. The products are sold in domestic and regional markets, contributing to food security, especially among the poor. Women entrepreneurs face several problems. Inefficient processing methods and traditional equipment lower their productivity. Poor hygiene practices and lack of quality controls prevent products from meeting market demands and requirements. These women are poorly organized. As a result, they can't obtain competitive prices for raw materials, nor does their production rate meet the demands of the market. The majority of women lack basic accounting skills and business experience, and therefore are not capable of making good pricing and profitability judgments. Due to the absence of education, most of the women operating in artisanal fish processing are in the informal sector. In cooperation with the Senegalese Ministry of Industry and the Ministry of Fisheries, UNIDO is assisting women to improve their technical and business skills. The objective of the program is to strengthen the entrepreneurial capabilities of the women involved in processing fish products. Strategies have been developed for raising the capacities of institutions and women working in this sector, and for testing their capabilities in the project sites of Kaya, Bani and Yoff. Today we can say that Yoff is a reference point for national and regional institutions, for national and regional development programs, and also for those women in micro and small-skilled processing enterprises who need help in benchmarking. In Yoff, one of the 3 pilot sites located on the outskirts of Dakar, women are using new equipment and storage facilities provided by the project. UNIDO has organized technical training in fish handling and processing, with particular emphasis on good hygienic practices, with a view to improving the quality and efficiency of the production line. The first thing the project taught us was hygiene, cleanliness and health, and also the way we should dress, how to wear our working garments, how to process fish using appropriate working tools. We never used to clean our working tables. Now, thanks to the project, they are all cleaned regularly. In cooperation with the Association Conseil pour l'Action, ACA, women have received training in accounting and business management. The newly acquired skills help them run their businesses, teaching them the importance of calculating costs and profits and of recording their transactions. In collaboration with the Japan International Cooperation Agency, UNIDO provides assistance and technical training to the women of Kaya, a village situated in the region of Thiès. Training in leadership and marketing techniques helps women to promote their products. Previously, these women did not know how to run their businesses. Thanks to the training on leadership provided by ACA, women leaders have acquired greater tolerance and have grown in their readiness to take risks. They can also account for their management, which enables them to perform the role for which they were elected more responsibly. They also know how to organize themselves in groups, which enables them to enjoy discount when buying materials in bulk, and furthermore to ensure profits by selling products at mutually agreed prices. In Bali, another pilot site important for artisanal fishing, there are about 300 women involved in fish processing. Most of the women are illiterate, and trainers use special training methods for adult literacy, combined with business skills training in Wolof. Learning with Wolof has enabled me to record the amount of fish I buy and the expenses involved. Once I sell, I deduct expenses, and this enables me to find out whether I have earned money or made a loss. That, for instance, is something I was not able to do before, because I operated blindly, not knowing how much money I had used, how much I had earned, and how much was left. But thanks to the training provided by UNIDO, I am now capable of managing my earnings. As a result of the program, the women entrepreneurs have introduced good processing methods and improved the production line efficiency, have implemented good hygiene practices, and have improved the quality of their products to meet market requirements. They are now aware of the importance of record keeping to keep track of their expenses. They are well organized and as a result are taking advantage of business opportunities, such as buying and selling their products together. The literacy level among the group has increased significantly. The program strengthens the technical and business capabilities of the women and raises their self-confidence as producers, managers, and entrepreneurs. It enables women to improve their living standards and those of their families, and helps them to contribute to the creation of wealth at the national and regional level.
Thank you. So, and now I would like to talk about the use of low GWP alternatives in the fishing industry, the current situation. As you have heard before, the consumption of HCFC-22 is really high in the fishing industry, especially when we talk about fishing vessels. It comes because in developing countries the equipment used is mostly quite old, and also because of the rough conditions on the sea and the constant vibration, the leakage is very high. However, fishing vessel owners normally don't repair their vessels, they just top up the refrigerant in order to avoid the downtime of the vessel. And this is why the consumption of refrigerant is so high in this case. As mentioned before, there is a tendency to move towards high GWP refrigerants as an alternative to HCFC-22. Which is particularly sad in those cases where there would be the possibility to leapfrog and use immediately ozone and climate-friendly refrigerants at the same time. However, unfortunately, there are concerns about the use of such refrigerants, which are sometimes based on certain misconceptions. Sometimes they are true as well. But let's see what are these concerns. The toxicity, the flammability, they were already mentioned before. efficiency of a new equipment, also the very simple argument, the dimension of the vessel, if it is big enough to introduce a new system, and of course the cost. In developing countries, this is the most important concern when it comes to the introduction of new technology. However, we have to say that there is no universal solution. Every time we have to consider the conditions and the characteristics. As of developing countries, the use of low GWP refrigerants is the highest in the industrial refrigeration sector. But I would say it's around 40%, but I think it's still a positive estimation. On the other hand, in developing countries, it's close to 90%. So we can clearly see that it's a viable possibility. Just the developing countries should be orientated into that direction. In developing countries, as mentioned before, they already use in some countries these technologies, mainly in Asia and Latin America, in countries like India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Argentina and Brazil. This mostly means ammonia and hydrocarbon. And now I will present the findings of a survey that was prepared by UNIDO in cooperation with a market development company called SHECO in 2013. And here we identified the most important barriers to the introduction of low GWP alternatives, since we believe that this is the first step in order to facilitate their introduction in the future. So first of all, I would list the awareness which we experienced is missing in most of the developing countries, and as said, sometimes their ideas about the use of these refrigerants are based on misconceptions. The involvement of national and local government authorities in non-profit and environmental organization is key, and of course also the supply and the demand side should be involved in discussions. Then training obviously is key. If there is no trained personnel, then although we have new technology, it will not operate, and that's why it's important to develop the training and certification schemes. Then comes the safety, trade and technology standards, which should be established or developed, also with appropriate background information and to update this changing landscape of using refrigerants. The policy framework is also something that can influence largely the use of alternatives. This is the biggest measure in the hand of the government, which can use certain taxation or support companies using certain technologies or importing certain refrigerants to the country. The market availability is of course a key issue, which can be also encouraged by such policy measures of the government. The selection methodology of new technologies is key, especially when it comes to the calculation of the energy consumption, because this can be a way to convince users to change to low GWP alternatives. And here comes the cost, which are the most important factors. Obviously, in developing countries, the initial costs count the most. So even if the life cycle cost would be better with such technologies, they tend to focus on the initial cost, and since this is quite high, it's a real concern. How can UNIDO and other international organizations facilitate the introduction of such alternatives? So hopefully we made the first steps by the identification of the barriers, and now we are in the process of mitigating these barriers, for example by developing financial mechanisms through different funds such as the Climate and Cleaner Coalition or the Global Environment Facility. And of course we try to stimulate discussions among stakeholders, because we truly believe that the private sector should be closely involved. We should also listen to their position, and the government should make decisions only after consultation with the private sector. And to finish, I present our 2 pilot projects which follow this logic. In Vietnam and in the Gambia we started projects funded by the Global Environment Facility, which also requires the involvement of co-financing partners in these 2 countries. This means the involvement of government, beneficiaries, technology providers, and also local development bank in Vietnam. Both projects have 3 main components: the policy and regulatory support, the technology transfer, and the awareness raising. In Vietnam, we target the demonstration of hydrocarbon technology on 2 pilot conversions, and then thanks to the financial scheme that is provided with the help of the Development Bank of Vietnam, we try to support facility owners to convert their own equipment the same way. Since in Africa the situation is a bit different, in the Gambia we have a slightly different approach. Here we pilot demonstration units in a training environment. In the Gambia, our project partner is the Gambia Technical Training Institute, and here in the refrigeration section of this training institute will be provided with 1 hydrocarbon and 1 CO2 unit. Of course, in this case as well, this is coupled with policy and regulatory support and awareness raising activities. I would like to say thank you for your attention, and I hope that I could share with you some new information and knowledge, and that now you have a more like a broader perspective in regard to fishing industry in developing countries.
Thank you, Katinka. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, I'm speaking. I need a microphone
yes,
to be recorded.
Okay, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I would like to ask you if UNIDO has a specific strategic implementation plan. What I mean, going to some country to do some strategic movements, like, for example, identifying the gaps, then try to fill the gaps and all the others, in order for some time, let's say some years, to fully substitute, to fully implement these GWP alternatives.
Thank you for the question. So, as mentioned, UNIDO is the implementing agency of the multilateral fund for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol. And in the context of the Montreal Protocol, we have the so-called HCFC phase-out management plans. This means that the executive committee of the multilateral fund approves projects, strategies, packages for each country. And this is based on the consumption and the needs of the countries. And in case UNIDO gets a request from the country, then it implements these projects. When we are responsible for the implementation of HCFC phase-out management plan in a certain country, we always examine the country-specific situation before starting the implementation, and this is called the preparatory phase of this project. And then with the cooperation with local stakeholders and with the agreement of the government, we implement these strategies. So yes, we have a strategy for those countries which belong to our portfolio, and we always try to keep in mind those principles that I presented in my presentation.
So my question is, okay, for each country, as I can understand, there is a strategy, but there is not a generic framework, let's say, for all the countries to develop. I mean, some generic guidelines. So each time depends on the country that you are referring to.
I mean, so the phase out of HCFCs is regulated by the Montreal Protocol. The phase out of HFCs is not covered by the Montreal Protocol, since it is not ozone-depleting substances. However, the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, regulates the phase out of HFCs, and the signatory countries must comply with the requirements of this convention. I mean, not tomorrow, but in the near future, they will need to face the situation. Although if they introduce today the HFCs, that next week they will need to phase them out. So that's why we tell them to do it today and to leapfrog this intermediate solution, because this is the only long-term solution.
That we have run out of time. I don't know if we want, it's a part of the discussion. Okay, so let me introduce a best friend who will moderate this discussion.
But go ahead, please, if they have a particular question to Katinka, go ahead.
And I think it can generate discussion, so it will be appropriate.
Excellent, excellent, please go ahead. Sorry, just one second. Can we put please the RT on? Just so that she can see us and we can see her.
I can hear you very well.
You can hear us? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Please go ahead.
Yes. So certainly I can understand the desire to leapfrog HFC into low GWP refrigerants. However, I hear two pieces of information that are conflicting with each other, in my view at least. On one hand, I hear that the refrigeration systems on board are leaking, and they are highly emissive. I think I've seen in one of the charts earlier, up to 40% of the charge is emitted annually, right? And I hear about poor maintenance practices, such as not fixing the leak, just topping off and so on. And then at the same time, I hear a lot of enthusiasm about putting hydrocarbons and ammonia on board ships in confined environments where an explosion could be catastrophic and with nowhere to go, evacuation very restricted. So can you help me reconcile those two conflicting pieces of information?
Yes, that's quite an issue. You are right. And unfortunately, UNIDO is not the only one who couldn't find so far the ideal solution for this. That's why in our two pilot projects we target first not fishing vessels but inland facilities related to the fishing industry, and then fishing vessels would come at a later stage. We are well aware of the safety risks related to natural refrigerants, and that's why we emphasize every time the importance of safety standards, regulations, and also the training and certification of technicians. And we are also open to discussions with academia, universities, when it comes to new alternatives. Actually, we have got feedback from prominent technology providers in regard to the use of HFOs in the fishing vessels, which are in cascade with CO2, and this would mean very low flammability and safe. It would mean a safe solution, but as far as I know, this initiative is very much in its early stage. So, but this is hopefully the future.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a great start for the discussion.